I actually don't know how to start this video. I'm quitting my job. I'm not really sure like what all I want to talk about in this video. I just think that this is something important to share and to discuss. I think that this could be really interesting to look back on later in life and just kind of see where we were at and where I was at mentally and how far we've come and, you know, all of those things. So if you know nothing about me, you'll be like, okay, why is quitting your job significant? Like, why is that such a big deal? And it's a big deal because me and my husband, we have or had over $100,000 in student loan debt. A small portion of that is a car loan, but very small, like $7,000, I think. And we have been on a debt payoff journey now. It'll be 2 years this November, but it's March. So, you know, a year and a half. I'm trying to drink my coffee before it gets cold. I've already had to reheat it once. You know, neither of us were making significant money. We were making okay money, but neither of us were making like a ridiculous amount of money. We just made a plan and we were going to get everything paid off in the span of about 4-ish years. 4 to 5 years, probably. Our initial payoff plan was like 5 to 7. Then, you know, I think I maybe got a raise or whatever. It got shortened to, 4 to 5 years. We were just kind of on that journey. And we also, I don't know if I've talked about it much on this channel, but basically our ultimate goals in life, okay, are this: start a homestead, homeschool our children, and serve the Lord. Like those are our goals in life. So that's kind of like what we were working towards, is like, you know, I'm working now, but we're gonna pay off this debt, we're gonna buy a homestead and have our family, homeschool our kids, and just live a peaceful existence. Like that was really what we wanted, and it's still what we want. And we kind of were toiling with when we should start having kids, because we were like, well, if we wait until all this debt is paid off to start having kids, that puts me at like 26 or 27 before we even have our first baby. And we want a big family. We want at least 4 children, if not more. And so we were kind of like, well, is that realistic? Is that smart? When is the quote unquote right time to have kids? Like, is the right time to have kids when you're completely debt free? Is the right time to have kids when you have a house of your own? Because right now we are renting. And we were just like kind of unsure, I guess, of what that looked like or what we should do. And then we were like, all right, well, maybe we should take the decision away from us. Like maybe we shouldn't be the ones to make the decision. We should surrender that to the Lord. So after, you know, getting some counsel from some, you know, friends of ours and, you know, other Christians, we were like, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to stop preventing for 3 months. And if we don't get pregnant in that 3 months, then it's not the right time, and we'll course correct. We'll maybe reevaluate what we're doing. Well, I ended up getting pregnant immediately. And mind you, we were not like trying to get pregnant. We just stopped preventative measures and I got pregnant immediately. And so we were like, all right, well, we're having our first baby now. And so we did. During my maternity leave, I, for most of it, was very, what word am I thinking of? I wasn't at peace with the fact that I had to go back to work. I was like, man, all I've really wanted since we got married was to be a homemaker and to stay home with our children. And I was like, we're not in a position to be able to do that with the amount of money that we were making at the time. Like we couldn't even make all of our normal bills and our minimum payments, let alone make extra payments to try to get out of debt, you know, within the time frame that we had set out for ourselves, which was that 4 to 5 year mark. I was frustrated, but then towards the end of my maternity leave, I kind of came to terms with that. I was like, you know what? It's okay. We have a very good childcare situation. We kind of piecemealed our childcare, and our daughter was going to be with family and friends that we trusted, and be with different people throughout the week. So she was getting really good socialization. She was going to be around some other kids because the friends of ours have kids. It's going to be fine. Like, it's going to be okay. Even if I have to work for a while, like, we can still homeschool. We know of other people who do it, who work full-time and also homeschool. It's going to be hard, but we can do it because this is important to us. And so that was kind of the plan. And as time went on, I started to feel more and more overwhelmed with all of the responsibility of working full-time and trying to be a good employee, because I do like my job and I do want to do it well. I'm very lucky with the job that I have been blessed with. I don't even want to say lucky. I want to say blessed. Like, God really provided the perfect job at the perfect time. And I really enjoy it. It's super flexible. I like everybody that I work with. I make good money. Like, just a fantastic job. I want to be able to do a good job, and I felt like my work wasn't getting my all. I felt like my family wasn't getting my all. Housework was constantly falling behind. I feel like I never get to see my baby, really. I get to see her for an hour in the morning and an hour and a half in the evening, and then a little bit on the weekends. But we're so busy on the weekends, like, we're running around, we're going to church functions, we're, like, weekends are just crazy. So I'm never getting to spend time with my child. And I just am feeling very overwhelmed by it all. I'm feeling like work is just not where my heart is. My heart really wants to be home with my family. All this time that I'm thinking all of these things, Zach, my husband, is in the process of being promoted at work. Potentially. Most likely. They kept saying, yeah, you're going to get this position and it's going to come with a good raise. Well, when they did finally promote him, they only gave him a small portion of his raise, and we didn't know what the full raise was going to be. I'm having all of these feelings, and we're not really sure, like, what he's going to be making. And so again, it's like, okay, I'm feeling this way, but I have to work because we physically don't bring in enough money on one income to even make ends meet, let alone make headway paying off debt. I'm like, well, I just have to suck it up, we have it good. Like, we have a really good position. We don't have to pay for childcare. We don't have to send our baby with somebody that we don't know. My job is super flexible. All these things. I'm like, okay, we have it made. You need to stop complaining and just be grateful for the situation that you're in. And so I was just like, just put your head down and just keep going. Well, then my husband finally got his full raise, and it was much more than we were expecting, which was so incredible. So incredible. Like, I cried after he called and told me. I cried, and I just immediately was like, thank you, Lord. Like, thank you so much, because we are so undeserving, and yet you continue to show up and show out and bless us, and I'm gonna cry again. It was just so good. And so, of course, I reran all the numbers once we got the news, and found out that now, instead of 4 to 5 years of debt payoff, we were going to have our debt paid off in 24 months. So 2 years. And I was like, wow, that's so incredible. And so I'm like making all these plans. I'm like, all right, I can work for like 3 more years. We'll get the debt paid off. We'll get a good savings going so that we can have an emergency fund, and then buy a house and like do all these things. We're like, all right, great. This is the track we're on. This is what we're doing. We're on the same page. Well, then I start feeling that weight again of like, this is not really where you want to be. Like, every day I have to take my daughter to somebody else and then sit in front of a computer while I look around me and see that the house is a disaster. I would much rather be putting my time and effort into keeping a nice home and caring for my own child. I'm pumping all this time too because we're breastfeeding. I'm having to pump all day, which I hate. I love nursing. I hate pumping. It's awful. I'm just feeling discontented, and I'm feeling guilty about that because we have been so blessed in every way. And I'm like, why, just be grateful. Like, just be grateful for what you have. All the while, in the back of my mind, I am very aware of a problem that I have and have had for quite some time. And that is a control issue over money and our finances. I've always kept a pretty detailed budget since I got a job. And then in the process of like wedding planning and all of that, we were keeping a very tight budget because we were cash flowing our wedding. And we, had to make sure that we could make payments on time to our vendors. And our wedding was more than we were anticipating on spending. And so, we had to be very diligent. And I've always been diligent about my money, especially with, the debt situation. I had a stronghold over our money, our finances, our financial future, and just like what our future looked like. I told you I had all these grand plans in my mind of like, all right, we're going to get the debt paid off in 2 years, and then we're going to save really hard for a year, and then we're going to be able to buy the land that we want and build this house that we want, which is nothing extravagant. It was a very, very simple home, but we're going to be able to build a new house, and I'm going to be able to stay home, and I just held on to that very tightly. I held on to that scenario very tightly. I held on to the money very tightly. And I knew this about myself. Every time that we were in church and we would talk about surrender, that we haven't laid at the cross, money was always my number one. And I was well aware of that, and I would even say it out loud, but I was unwilling to surrender it or even ask for the will to surrender it, because I didn't know how to surrender it. I really didn't, but I was unwilling to even go to the Lord and say, Lord, I have a problem with this, and I am obsessive over it, and I'm holding on so tightly to it, and I don't know how to let it go and how to give it to you. Help me do that. Like, I was unwilling to say it. I thought that if I just hid that, or if I didn't say it out loud to him, if I didn't ask that prayer, if I didn't pray that prayer, that I wouldn't have to, and that I could hold on to that idyllic future that I had in my mind for our family, and that he wouldn't change the course. That he'd just let it happen. He'd just let me do what I want. Mind you, my mind knows full well that that's not how it works. I was operating out of fear, I was afraid to let go of that, and I was afraid to surrender that, because what if the answer is no? What if that means I don't get the future that I want? What if that means we don't get the house that we want? What if that means, all these different things? I'm like, I don't want to let go of that. I want to hold tight to that. So I did. But every day it just felt like a huge weight. A huge weight. On a weekly basis, I would have, I don't want to say mental breakdowns, but I would cry, I would get emotional, I would have these episodes, I don't know how to say it, but where I would be I don't know if we're making the right decision, I don't know what the right decision is, I don't know what the Lord is calling us to. Is he telling me to just suck it up and keep working for 2 more years, 3 more years, whatever, to get the debt paid off, or is he telling me to stay home with my baby? And I would just get so upset about it. I mean, weekly, because I was so afraid of making the wrong choice. And I just kept praying please, Lord, make it clear. Please, Lord, make it clear. Please, Lord, make it clear. And I feel like he kind of already had, but I wasn't seeing that. Because I'm thinking, is it irresponsible of me to quit my job at this point when we have all this debt? And mind you, we've made good headway up to this point, very good headway. We are under 100,000 now. We've paid off a really significant amount, and we've been really good. But I'm still thinking we still have quite a bit to go. And is it irresponsible of me to quit my job? Is that a bad decision? Is that us not being good stewards? All these things. And so I'm just fighting this mental battle, for months of what is the right decision? What is the Lord calling me to? All the while, I'm still really holding on tight to the money and the finances and the dream, right? Because I'm if I quit my job, that could derail everything, And it all sort of came to a head, and I don't even really know how to explain what happened. It was kind of just an internal thing, and I really feel like it was an answered prayer, because I was constantly praying about this. I was constantly saying, Lord, please show me the way. Please. I need clarity, and I need your peace, and I need you to tell me what to do. because I don't know what to do. Yeah, and it all just sort of came to a head, and I sort of had a realization that all this time there have been little nuggets, I think, of the Lord saying, like, you need to just trust me and you need to just surrender. And specifically this area of your life, because this is the one thing you're holding on to so tightly. And that looks like you leaving your job. That looks like you leaving a job that is so perfect and that everyone has said is so perfect, and you have such a great situation. That's potentially letting go of the idyllic future that you have in your head. That is adding time back to your debt payoff. And that is making what some would say a bad decision, an irresponsible decision, and taking a step of faith and just saying, I trust you, Lord. We don't have control over this as much as we'd like to think we do. We don't have control over our money. We don't have control over our future. Like, it is entirely in your hands. And here you go. Have it. Take it. I don't want it anymore. I think he was saying that when Zach got his raise, but I wasn't ready to accept that at that point. I wasn't ready to fully surrender that. It took a lot of sleepless nights and prayer and worry, and ultimately my husband saying, I think you should quit your job, to really come to that conclusion, to really come to the conclusion that this is the practical way that I can let go and surrender this thing that I have not been able to let go of and surrender for so long. And so we talked about it, and up to this point my husband had said, listen, if you feel like you need to leave your job, do it. I will take care of us. Like, that had always been his position, but he never took a hard stance on like, yes, you should quit your job, or not, you should keep working. He kind of left it up to me. And I think everything finally coming to a head and him looking me in the eye and saying, I think you should quit your job, that was kind of all I needed to hear. I feel like you can't make the wrong choice when what you're doing is saying, I trust you, Lord. I'm taking a step of faith. I'm giving it to you. I'm letting go of my own will and my own perceived power and my own perceived control. I'm letting that all go, and I'm giving it to you. I feel like that's never the wrong decision. Full surrender is never the wrong decision. I feel like he blessed us with a promotion and a raise, and then I still wasn't willing to let go. Like, I still wasn't willing to let go, even after he very clearly gave me a sign and said, here you go. You can make it work. I'm gonna take care of you. So we ultimately made that decision. And it was hard because there's so many voices. We've got people on one hand saying, like, it's always a great thing to stay home with your kids, and the Lord will provide, and all of those things. And then we have people on the other hand who are like, what about the debt, and what about the house, and you would hate staying at home, and you have such a great job and you might never get this job again, and just so many voices. I think it was all of the voices that made it really hard to hear from the Lord, and still does. I still, there have been times of doubt, like, oh my gosh, you're right, this is a really great job and we do really have it made, and is this a bad decision? But ultimately, I just keep coming back to the fact that we have to trust the Lord and we have to surrender, and we've been really bad at that. Specifically me, I can't really speak for my husband, but specifically me, in terms of money. I think that's common. I think there are a lot of people that have a hard time surrendering their financial situation because that feels really scary. Something that our pastor's wife said to me was like, surrender is the scariest yet safest place to be, because you're officially giving up that control that you thought you had, which again is just funny because we don't have control, we just think we do. And so you're giving up that control that you think you have, and that's scary. That is so scary, but yet your head knows that the Lord is sovereign and loving, and that his plan is going to be so much better than anything that you could possibly do or want or foresee, and yet we're so afraid to let go of that. I can't keep operating out of fear. It's not sustainable, it's not healthy, and it's not what the Lord calls us to do. I really think that there is a lot to be said for a mom being able to disciple her own kids. I'm not saying that that's the only way that people should live. There's so many different things that work for different families and so many different callings that the Lord lays on our lives. But to me, it's very important. And that is a big deal to us and to our family, is for us to be able to, disciple our kids. And, at the beginning of the year, I went to a Bible study and we talked about spiritual goals for the year. And the first thing that came to my mind was making my family my number one ministry. And I have not been able to do that working a full-time job. And I want to read something that I discussed with my mom. This is an important note. So my mom said this to me: "Money stress is a big issue in marriages, and I just don't want you guys to struggle. I want you to not settle and to be able to get everything you've dreamed of. And I know that being a mom is part of that." And this was my response. I said, "Yes, our ultimate dream is for me to stay home, be able to homeschool, start a homestead, and serve the Lord. Sometimes quicker isn't always better, and more money doesn't equal no financial hardship or money fights. Good stewardship does. Communication does. Being unified in your goals and your path to get there does. And we are. And we will be just fine." I just think that is something really important to remember, that more money doesn't automatically mean less problems. Yes, more money can be very helpful. Obviously, this raise that my husband got was very helpful. And would it be quote unquote helpful for me to continue working and pay off debt faster? Maybe. But people who make 6 figures or more still fight about money, still live paycheck to paycheck, still have debt, still struggle, still get divorced, still settle. Earning more doesn't take those issues away. What does is being focused on Christ and having him be the center of everything and surrendering it all to him and being good stewards. I mean, I have really kind of dove into the homestead side of YouTube because, again, that's our ultimate goal, is to start a homestead. And the amount of people who have started a successful homestead living off of one very small income, smaller than ours, is incredible. And the peace that they have and the joy that they have, that doesn't come from the money, because they don't make hardly anything. That comes from the Lord. They talk about that, a lot of them. And I feel like no matter what you do, if that is your heart, if pursuing the Lord in everything you do, no matter what it is your heart and your goal, then you can't go wrong. That's where we're at. It's going to be a couple more months until I officially leave my job. For a few reasons, we want to prepare a little bit. We want to get a little bit of a savings buffer going. We have a few expenses later in the year that we want to pay for now, but while we have 2 incomes, just to make sure those are out of the way. And I also want to give my job plenty of time, plenty of notice, potentially help train somebody that comes in to replace me. But we have made an official decision that I'm gonna stop working. I don't know when I'm gonna put this up. I think I might wait a little bit to put this out there, but that's where we're at. I feel like a weight has been lifted off of my shoulders since we made this decision. I don't feel the stress and the anxiety anymore of, are we making the right decision? Whereas before, when the decision was, I'm gonna keep working, that was all there was so much turmoil. Are we making the right choice? Are we making the right choice? This is I can't do this anymore. I'm so stressed. And I feel so at peace, even though it could mean completely letting go of everything that I thought our lives were going to look like. I don't care. Thank you for watching up until this point. If you did, I really appreciate you, and I hope that something maybe resonated with you or got you thinking a little bit more about places that maybe you need to surrender fully. It really is the scariest yet safest place to be. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I will see you next time as this journey continues. So, bye.